Welcome to today's explainer. Let's just jump right in. I want you to take a second and imagine something for me. Picture yourself becoming completely fluent in English, or really any new language, without ever forcing yourself through those exhausting grammar drills. Imagine just skipping the frustrating memorization exercises and those incredibly stressful speaking practices where you're constantly searching for the right word. Sounds kind of impossible, right? Well, today, we're breaking down some absolutely fascinating insights that reveal why our traditional way of learning languages might actually have it totally backwards. The secret to fluency? It might just be the simplest action of all, listening. But, and this is a big but, it's about listening in a very specific way.
So, what if you stopped studying grammar entirely? I know, it feels like a completely radical idea, almost rebellious, doesn't it? We are so conditioned to believe that rulebooks are the absolute key to unlocking a language. Okay, let's dive into this, because the source material we are unpacking today argues that our standard approach, trying to juggle a million rules all at once, is exactly the thing that is holding us back. Think about what happens when you try to memorize a grammar rule, while also worrying about your accent, while also trying to recall a specific vocabulary word. Your focus is totally divided. And honestly, that divided focus is actually ruining your progress.
Traditional learning essentially demands that you tackle vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and speaking practice all at the exact same time. It is so overwhelming. If you've ever felt just utterly exhausted after a study session, feeling like you're putting in literal hours of work but seeing zero real progress in your day-to-day fluency, well, this is exactly why. You're basically spinning plates. You lose motivation because there are simply too many methods, way too many goals, and it's virtually impossible to maintain consistency when your poor brain is being pulled in 4 different directions at once.
Section 1. The foundation of fluency, which is listening. Let's just clear the slate right now and relieve some of that overwhelm. We are going to simplify this entire process down to one core skill, the absolute foundation of fluency. Everything you want, the natural pronunciation, the intuitive grammar, that massive vocabulary, all of it comes from one single input, and that is listening. If you understand well, everything else will naturally follow.
To put this into perspective, think about the natural language acquisition process, like how children learn. They don't start out by studying verb conjugations, right? No way. They spend months doing absolutely nothing but listening. Then, over a period of years, they slowly begin understanding the context of those sounds. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, one day they just start speaking automatically. It isn't magic, it's just listening at work. This brilliantly illustrates that understanding must always, chronologically, precede speaking. Before you can speak, you gotta hear. Before you can write, you have to understand. Let's compare these two approaches side by side. On one hand, we have the stressful reality of separated skills, setting aside, say, an hour for grammar time, an hour for vocabulary time, and an hour for speaking time. It's incredibly rigid. But on the other hand, we have natural absorption. When you listen to the right content, you naturally hear how words are pronounced, you start noticing sentence patterns without even trying. Your brain just absorbs the language without you having to force it to memorize a single thing. You don't need to separate your skills anymore because everything develops together, seamlessly, just through the act of listening.
Section 2. The listening playbook, featuring 8 active techniques. But hey, here's the catch. Listening alone isn't quite enough. You can't just passively let sounds wash over you and expect to wake up fluent the next day. You actually need to do it the right way. So grab a mental notepad, because we're going to run through 8 active techniques derived directly from our source material that are absolute game changers for how you process language.
All right, technique number 1 is all about combining your senses. Listen while you read. When you listen to an English audio track and follow along with the written text at the exact same time, magic happens. You don't even need to understand every single word. Just kind of follow the flow. You are directly connecting your ears, the sound, with your eyes, the spelling. And this helps you recognize words so much faster, and it improves your pronunciation entirely naturally. Honestly, when your ears and eyes work together like this, your brain actually learns twice as fast.
Moving on to technique number 2, turn your own voice into learning material. This is a step most people completely ignore, but it is so effective. Step 1, record yourself saying vocabulary words, sentences, or, even just your random thoughts out loud. Step 2, listen to those recordings while you're resting, walking, or even going to sleep. Why does this work so incredibly well? Well, because your brain is highly intimately familiar with your own voice. You learn much faster when you hear yourself. By doing this, you quite literally become your own best teacher.
Technique number 3 totally removes the pressure of finding a conversation partner, because you can simulate real conversations all by yourself. Imagine simulating scenarios like a high-stakes job interview, a casual chat with a friend at a coffee shop, or just telling a really compelling story. Speak your answers out loud and record them. When you listen back, you're going to instantly notice your own hesitations, your mistakes, and your weak points, but in a totally safe, judgment-free environment. If you practice alone like this, you will perform vastly better in real life.
For technique number 4, try using some super simple reflection phrases. Things like, "This week I learned," or "I heard this phrase," or maybe "I understand this better now." The strategy here is to build a quick 1 to 2 minute weekly reflection habit using these exact prompts. Just summarize what you picked up over the week and try to use new words and sentences. It sounds almost too simple, but reflection is the exact mechanism that turns short-term input into locked-in long-term memory.
Now, technique 5 actually comes with a bit of a warning. We need to clearly define full attention. It means focusing entirely on the meaning, the tone, and the message, completely without distractions. Please, do not just play English in the background while you're scrolling on your phone and expect miraculous results. If you aren't paying attention, you aren't learning. Attention is literally the gate to learning. When you listen, you have to really listen and actively try to understand the core message. Which brings us right to technique 6, finding your comfort challenge zone. You really shouldn't pick audio that is entirely too easy, but on the flip side, you definitely shouldn't pick content that is incredibly frustrating either. The absolute sweet spot for real improvement is finding content where you naturally understand about 70 to 80% of what's being said. That remaining 20 to 30%, that provides the perfect amount of new challenge. In this zone, you aren't bored, you aren't overwhelmed, and your brain stays highly engaged. Technique number 7 asks a supercritical pre-listening question. What am I actually listening for today? Are you hunting for new vocabulary? Are you focusing on the speaker's pronunciation? Or are you maybe just trying to grasp the main ideas? The crucial point here is that setting a clear intention before you even hit the play button totally transforms the act from just passive hearing into focused, effective learning. When your brain has a specific goal, it basically acts like a filter, grabbing onto exactly what you need.
Section 3. From studying to living. To really master this whole process, we have to zoom out a bit. We're moving from simply studying a language to actually living it. This is way less about a daily study habit and much more about a holistic lifestyle shift.
And that leads us to technique 8, which is arguably the most powerful one of all. You are no longer learning English. You're living in English. Don't put strict boundaries around your study time. Instead, bring the audio right into your daily routine. Listen to a podcast while you're walking the dog. Throw on an audiobook while you're cooking dinner. Or watch a show without subtitles while you're just relaxing on the couch. When you integrate the sounds into your normal life, fluency stops being a chore and it starts happening entirely naturally.
Look, I know this can feel like a really big shift, so I want to give you an incredibly actionable starting point. Just 5 minutes, that's it. Start today with literally just 5 minutes of full attention audio. Pick a topic you love, set your intention, and really listen for 5 solid minutes. Because listening isn't just one tiny slice of the pie, it is the master skill that builds absolutely everything else. When you understand more, you start thinking faster, and ultimately you speak better. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Knowing what you know now about how the brain naturally absorbs language, what is your next move going to be? Will you keep juggling those rigid, stressful study methods that divide your focus and slow you down? Or will you ditch the heavy grammar books, put on your headphones, and truly start listening today? The path to fluency might literally just be a play button away. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you approach learning.